I know we're just finishing up business meetings in the room next door, so I know some are still making their way in, but it's the interest of keeping on time, wanted to go ahead and kick off. Again, my name is Matulich. I'm the Executive Director of the Customer Management Practice. I'm so pleased to be sitting next to Dana Wilson. Dana Wilson is the VP of Customer Experience Assurance at Comcast. Welcome, Dana.
Thank you.
So Dana and I have had a chance to visit a few times here leading up to the event, and today we're going to be talking about really the focus of continuous improvement, process improvement when it comes to customer experience. And Dana has a really interesting role within Comcast, very interesting journey as well. So we are going to spend just a little bit of time here to kick things off to learn a little bit about Dana and her background, sort of where she started and how she kind of ended up where she is today, and then also talk a little bit about some of the work that she's doing at Comcast, which from my perspective has been really, really brilliant stuff, taking an organization, in my opinion, very much to the next level after identifying some key challenges. So Dana, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to kick off and learn or share with the audience here a little bit about your background, where you went to school, how you started, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I am a chemical engineer by degree, and I did go to Drexel University, and from there I worked in manufacturing for most of my career. Now I'm on the downside. Now it's half of my career. I've worked in manufacturing and then transitioned into technology and product development, also research development, but then now into customer experience. And how I did that was I worked in manufacturing, and as many of you know, in manufacturing, they love Six Sigma. So I decided, I want to do that. I didn't want to be a principal engineer and continue down that path. So I said, okay, let me get into this because it was the next sizzly hot thing, just like some would say CX is design thinking and, all these different methodologies. And so I transitioned from being a process engineer to being a Six Sigma black belt. Cut my teeth on quite a few projects doing that, and then went to Comcast, where I led product development and technology development for our products and services, but then subsequently found myself kind of full circle back into process redesign for our experience end-to-end, not doing Six Sigma, but doing process improvement and proactive problem solving for them.
Really interesting. How many chemical engineers in the audience here, right? And I know, for me, when I heard that, redefining, I know a lot of us went in a different direction from our respective degrees, but that, for me, was one of the most demonstrative sort of turns from a chemical engineer into the world of customer experience. Anything that you've been able to pull in, anything transferable?
Just problem solving skills. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you're taught as an engineer. And I don't want to make this too geeky, but it's what you learn, and how to creatively solve problems for business is exactly what I learned to do as an engineer, and do it in products and with technology. But now, really looking at the customer and being able to feel, what they feel, and then develop solutions that really fit their needs.
Very interesting. Actually, I hadn't thought of that. Makes perfect sense. Now, as VP of Customer Experience, a lot of people in the room have that title, VP of Customer Experience. Yours is VP of Customer Experience Assurance.
Yes.
Can you tell the group what that means, from your perspective, but then from how Comcast has defined it for you?
Yeah, so really assuring that the experiences that we're delivering are actually meeting the customer's needs, that we're not going to the quick fix of tactics, throwing a lot of budget, technology at a problem that we're trying to solve for our customers, but really improving their experience. So really going back and evaluating that experience that we launch, whether it be product experience, whether it's service experience, or with our technicians as well, from a frontline perspective. And so really being able to look at our vision and our strategy and help develop that, but then sell that into our employees, because, as much technology and how much we've advanced, from a product standpoint, we really have to bring our people along the way. And so that has been a critical part of my role, is really being able to evaluate experience end to end, evaluate where we're missing the mark and where we're hitting it with customers, not necessarily with our operational metrics, our financials and things like that, but really looking at what does it mean for the customer and how does our experience render for them.
It's interesting, your journey and your current role at the moment. many of the people in the audience, chief customer officers, CXOs, VPs of customer experience, have come from varying backgrounds. Some from marketing, some from the product side, others from sales and other parts of the organization. Now, for you, you have kind of the product upbringing, and you've talked to me a little bit about some of the projects you're doing, which we'll get into here in a moment. But how is the sort of the product sort of inception, the product upbringing within Comcast? How's that helped you in what you're doing today?
Really, it's helped me think about things more creatively, but it's also grounded me in the leveraging the balance between technology and actually experience. And so for our products, we have features that we think our users and customers are going to use and want. And from an experience and service side of the house, you really have to take that same kind of point of view where you need to understand the customer need and you need to focus there, and then you build. And so for us, and for me, in my experience being in product, it's really helped me to kind of marry and weave together. How do we balance this whole thing, this technology piece, such that it's not really driving an experience that is not personable and one that does not really bring the customer along in with us? And so that delicate dance is something I've learned over the years in being in product and technology as well.
It's interesting. You said to me kind of in the lead up that step one has been truly understanding the end-to-end customer experience. We were just chatting with Jean Bliss, who will be running her Human Duct Tape podcast here live as the next session. We were talking also about how important that is and how oftentimes a CX initiative is in place without that first step truly having happened. Can you tell us a little bit about how you took a tenured CX function and really moved it in the direction of making understanding the customer experience, the end-to-end customer experience, the journey, sort of top priority?
Sure. So I don't know if many people out here are designers, but I took a page out of the user design textbook that says, okay, you need to go out and understand your customer. You can do ethnographic studies. We call them in-home research studies. And what I did with our move experience is our move experience was a kind of just the kitchen sink of every last transaction that we do, because a customer in a move can upgrade service. So that's like purchasing. They then transition, they activate equipment. They then go in after they activate, they use it. So if you think of the LB-GOPS model, not to get too methodology focused, we had that going on in one experience. And this customer could do a multitude of things, so it was very complex. And so as a company, we really didn't take the time to kind of peel back. What is the experience? What are customers going through during a move? We thought we knew, just like it's like, oh, we're selling, okay, if they're upgrading, it's like a sale. So we treat it the same way. But what we found in doing actually customer diaries, so we had 8 customers that we gave a GoPro to for 30 days, and they basically diaried their move with us. And so that video was so powerful because you got to see different quote unquote personas, and they're actual people that actually were going through a move with us. And some people were, a family of 4. There were, baby boomers. There were millennials who were moving in with a roommate. And what we saw there is that we were missing the mark on actually what happens. People are stressed out. They don't have all of the equipment set up. They're going into homes that, they don't have their lights, their lamps hooked up yet. The only thing they had in their hand consistently was a phone. And so everybody was just trying to figure it out at a moment that was very stressful for them, because they had the furniture was supposed to come, the cable guy was supposed to come, and the dog is barking, the children are running around, and they're just trying to get something up and running. And there was internet in particular. And so what we learned there is a much more powerful story that we missed for many, many years. We missed the fact that people are under a tremendous amount of stress when they're moving, and the last thing they want to do is argue or sit in queues or reiterate the issue that they're trying to solve with Comcast. And so that's where we were able to build a full-on new experience for our movers, and we're still iterating on it because it was actually quite gnarly, much more gnarlier than we ever thought it would be. Wow. From a systems and process side on our house, but also for what each customer was trying to do. And so we're removing that complexity to make it easy, to make it effortless.
So up to this point, we talked a lot about customer reduction in one form or another, whether it be here on stage, whether it be conversations out in the foyer. We've heard a lot about reduction of customer effort. So your department now has gone from, I think, 60 legacy CX people to now a total all-encompassing group of nearly 5,000.
Yes.
What are some of the key projects that you'd be willing to share with the group that have been around customer effort reduction off the back of some of the work you did in the upfront phases, understanding where maybe things were going wrong?
Yeah, so even returning equipment, we actually have partnered with UPS to be able to have customers go to their local UPS store instead of going to our service centers. So no longer sitting in a queue. Now you're in a service center and you're trying to return equipment. For whatever reason, you upgraded or we swapped your equipment out, and being able to provide that level of convenience for customers so that we're meeting them when they need it most. We also introduced something we call real-time assistant, which is, and this is a part of the moves work, is that we realized the mobile phone was just key and critical to a customer. And I know this won't sound like rocket science or earth-shattering, and there won't be this like huge epiphany for people, but we introduced text messaging along the way. And so it's called Journey Assistant, and we call it, the brand is Real-Time Assistant. What happens there is that a customer gets the information they need most at the time they need it, not the email confirmation with the plethora of whether it be marketing and what you need to do and how you need to prepare for us to come and you to receive your services with us. It now sequences the customer through at the moments that they need it. And so after you make your move call or you do it online, you'll get a confirmation of just simply your transaction. And then when it's X number of days out from you moving, you get a text message that'll tell you, hey, here you're moving at X date, here's how you prepare for us to come. Do you have your, if you're moving your equipment yourself, have your quick cable cords, and we always give an option for a customer to have us call them back. So a big piece of what we're doing is you hear about, we fit into your life, not the other way around. It's true. And we're living and breathing that as an organization so that we can have customers actually schedule callbacks. So they can schedule the time that they want to talk to us or they need our assistance, and not, again, sit in a queue, wait for us to answer them.
So one of the interesting components, so some very exciting projects there, and it sounds like some projects that were directly, off the back of what you found. So good on you and good on Comcast to go ahead and not only get the information and sort of the feedback, but then to obviously take action, which I think a lot of times is where it falls by the wayside. But one of the things that I found interesting, is interesting about Comcast as a company is, similar to some of the organizations that are represented in the audience, it's one of those organizations that truly has the most robust scope of generations. So it's very generational. You have baby boomers, you have Gen Y, you have Gen X, you have millennials, you have digital age customers starting to come into the frame. What sort of generational challenges came your way, and how have you kind of considered that, if at all, in a lot of your initiatives?
Yeah, we're really looking hard at our customer base, our existing customer base and the tenure, because what we're seeing is each kind of cohort may require something different. So there's no wholesale, quick fix, cookie cutter approach to how we service those customers. And we're finding the longer a customer stays with us, the more service expectation they have to be higher and higher and higher than our earlier tenured folks. And so the forgiveness that we get is less and less when someone has stayed with us. And I'm a consumer as well. So if I stick with the brand, I expect a certain amount of service. I expect a certain amount of quality the longer I stay with and invest my dollar with that company. And so we're looking at our customer base to actually look to see how do we best service each cohort of customer and get really personalized in that experience with them, leveraging the data that we have, the insights that we have about that one customer. And so we have an effort right now that we just launched called Scale to One, and that's taking all of our scale, all of our data, and being able to scale down the experience to that one customer. And so that's something that we just recently, within the last, I would say, 6 months or so, have been a huge focus of ours.
So I've one last kind of line of questioning here, and because quite frankly, I could probably spend a day talking to you about each of those initiatives you just mentioned, at least. But organizational discipline's another component that I think you've done really, really well, and you've been able to engage your employee base in a way to help bring a lot of these initiatives to fruition. What advice can you give the group in terms of really creating now the disciplines internally as you've made these really aggressive, certainly pushes forward to really ensure that you're creating a great customer experience for your customers? What are you doing internally to ensure that's being delivered properly?
So the first thing we did was actually implement EMPS, which is our employee MPS. So we didn't just go with a Net Promoter Score, and some companies do Net Promoter Score, but we did the Net Promoter System. And that includes not only the customer surveys, but the employee surveys as well. And so the generation of escalations or elevations, we call it, from our employees about what they need to do their job best is something that we, really value. And the information we get from that, we can actually action off of. And so at every level within the organization, all the way to the C-suite, we actually read our elevations from our employees. We're in huddles where we actually are addressing the issues or things that come up and actually trying to remove them. And so I think from an employee standpoint, employees are feeling like they really are heard consistently across the organization. Not just, you have a good manager back, before, if you had a good manager and your manager, had a good team environment, that group of employees may experience something different than someone that may not. And so with this system now, we are harnessing all of the feedback from our employees because, quite honestly, they live and breathe it. It's just like the customer. If you don't understand the life of an employee in your organization, it's a true misstep in trying to do this work.
So last question, and I'd like to turn it over to the audience to ask Dana some questions of their own. You come from a Six Sigma background. The sessions focus really on continuous improvement. I think when we all make the initial adjustments, and I know it's been an ongoing process, but the initial adjustments, you get the quick wins, you get the big wins. Then there's that process after that where it's constantly looking at that next 1 or 2% of improvement. What advice could you give to the group to really make sure that continuous improvement, not just improvement, is at the forefront?
Yeah, it has to live and breathe in every part of your organization. So it's not no longer like the Six Sigma team and they come in like, the SWAT team that comes in and handles this like consultants. Each employee should be encouraged to do continuous improvement. And it should be embodied in the culture that you have in your organizations. I truly believe that because each individual knows some of the things that plague their processes, their policies every single day, that those improvements that they can make and the power that they have to make them, it will have incremental benefit and return back.
Interesting. Dana, thank you so much for the insight. I'd like to turn it over to the audience here. What questions do we have for Dana up here?
Sure.
One here? Okay, yep.
You mentioned taking the vision strategy, share best practices,
Yeah, so really visually, I think people understand as adult as we are, but as elementary as a picture book. I mean, a picture says 1,000 words, and the more you can visualize that vision for employees to give them a sense of what it would look and feel like. We are humans, and so a lot of times I think because we work with technology and we work in a lot of tech-heavy environments, we forget that we can really resonate just through storytelling and visualization. And so I truly believe that, a lot of our success has been through visualization. The other piece has also been with taking small groups of people to actually bring an element of that to life and then having people evangelize for you as well.
Question there?
Mhm. Yeah, so we have, it's twofold. So the EMPS is just a cultural shift. So with this work, you know as much as I do, is that you're changing behaviors, you're changing mindsets. And so when folks can actually have both sides of the coin happen, where they're getting the feedback on their service and the services they're providing from the customer, but also have the ability to provide feedback to the organization that they're working for, is powerful in changing the mindset that says, okay, I hear an issue from my customer, or I'm having an issue as an employee, and then I can raise that issue and work on solutioning together. And so I think stepping away from the traditional methodologies is key, because now that employee, it's not Six Sigma, it is Dana Wilson or Mario's, now process improvement or improvement project, right? Because they saw a need, they saw an issue, but we also have to change your policies to actually support and empower employees to be able to do that, right? And that doesn't have a level of you don't penalize them or things like that for the things that they're elevating, right? And so that they feel comfortable, they feel like they're being heard and trusted. The other piece of that is that we are decentralized, but we have CX practitioners across. When I say decentralized, we have a headquarters, but then we have 3 other divisions across our footprint. And so each division has its own org and structure. And so what we've done there is actually put CX practitioners within each one of our divisions as well. And so we're a collective, it's almost like a community of CX practitioners that are evangelizing, supporting, helping, and providing a level of support like process improvement or journey mapping, support to help with these improvements at the local level as well. And so that's what my group has done at the corporate level and enterprise level, but we also have practitioners out in our divisions as well.
Time for one more question.
So we're doing callbacks. And so even at our corporate level, our CEO does callbacks. And so every employee is supposed to do 2 callbacks a month at minimum. And we do much more, especially in our front lines, because we're forever learning. Think of the NPS. We think of the NPS, I do anyway, the NPS system like machine learning, right? And so as we get information back from our customers and our callbacks, and we're hearing, and this is not just calling back the customers to give you a positive NPS, you call back the negatives and neutrals as well. And so being able to get that information back in, and then some of it raises as elevations, because we have issues that need to be resolved at a local level, but also systemically in some instances as well. And they will rise, those elevations actually rise to the level of corporate in some instances. If they're a policy issue, we had move elevations that have come through that process that I receive in particular, that I then have to respond to, close the loop with the employee, let them know what work is being done to improve the process, but I have to be responsible and accountable back to my counterparts out in the field as well.
We'll do one more question, because there's a yes in the back right there, yes.
It's the whole organization. You would get, just like with any survey, you get a wealth of a lot of different categories of what the issues are or things that need to be solved. Some are policy, some are process, some are technology issues, if certain technologies that people are using. Some are, HR related in some instances. That happens in the elevations, right? And so if it's a more systemic issue, it will get elevated to the corporate level, and then we'll have to bring that to the forefront in our huddles, right? And so we have senior leadership huddles as well to say, okay, let's look at these big, lofty systemic issues. It's not just because in how we tell whether it's a systemic issue Or I haven't even had cocktails yet. Or it's another issue that's more localized is how many we look at the trends. And so how many of those same types of issues point back maybe to a policy issue or, or organizational issue, a functional issue that we have. And then that's where we're charging ourselves to evaluate those elevations and actually have the hard conversations or develop new programs to address them. Yes, it's a CX team, but again, it's dispersed across our organization. And it's not an HR thing. It's managed by everyone. So you have huddles. So EMPS, for every person that manages employees, you'll have an EMPS score for your team. And so every manager, every leader I have EMPS scores, and I do huddles. It lies with the CX team to start, but it is an enterprise responsibility. So it's not just one functional group that's pushing this through and that they're responsible for correcting everything. It is a company-wide effort, and everyone is accountable.
Well, Dana, first of all, I want to thank you again for being here with us. You do not have an easy job, and I know the work that you're doing is appreciated by your customer base. It's recognized by your customer base, both your tenured customers and your newer customers. I know it's also a benchmark for a lot of people in this audience to know that there's always another level and another area that can be improved upon. And so thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for sharing all of your initiatives with us.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks again.
That's it.